Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to today's Gopher Solutions webinar. My name is Tabor Sawatsky, and for those of you who are new to our webinar series, this is a monthly webinar focusing on a variety of physical education subjects and topics. Some of our past webinar topics have included PE teachers presenting on specific activities like assessment, fitness, classroom management, and PE advocacy. Some of our past presenters have included Dr. Robert Pangrazi, Dr. John Medina, and Jean Blades. Our presenters have done a great job of bringing useful topics and information to the field of physical education. Our webinars will almost always occur the third week of the month, and all attendees of today's webinar will receive a certificate of participation for 1 hour of educational credit. Also today, all attendees will be entered to win our Action Topple Tubes equipment and activity set, one of our most popular new activities from Gopher, and is valued at $189. Today's webinar is titled Changing Attitudes to Learn, Do, and Be More with Maria Court. And before I introduce Maria, I wanted to mention that you will have the chance to ask questions during the presentation, and your questions are only visible to me, the moderator, so feel free to ask any questions you might have at any time during the presentation. And where you can ask those questions, on the lower right-hand side of your screen, there should be a question and answer box. And you can type any question you'd like to at any time throughout the presentation, and we'll accumulate those throughout Maria's presentation and ask those of her at the end, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. Today, I do have the pleasure of introducing our presenter, Maria Court. Maria attended Arizona State University, where she received a physical education bachelor's degree. She received her master's degree from the University of Phoenix in Education Administration. Maria has been teaching at Mesa High School since 1994 and Arizona State University Polytechnic Campus since 2005 in the physical education departments. While teaching at Mesa High, Maria has developed and created a cutting-edge fitness program and the Mesa High Elite Fitness Club, which serves as a model for schools around the country. In addition to her teaching, she has coached varsity volleyball, track, cheerleading, and is one of the strength and conditioning coaches at her high school. Maria has made numerous state and national presentations. She speaks on a number of topics, including innovative fitness routines, management and discipline, and skill instruction. Maria was named the 2004 Arizona High School Physical Education Teacher of the Year, and in 2005 she received the NASPE Southwest District High School Teacher of the Year Award. At this time, I will turn it over to our presenter. Maria, it is all yours.
Well, thank you, Tabor, and thank you, Gopher, for allowing me this opportunity to talk to y'all. What a perfect, I think, topic for the new year. Give us a chance to take a look at ourselves, take a look at what's going on, and see if we can tweak it a little bit and make some changes for the rest of the semester here and starting the new year. So I wish everybody a successful 2017, and let's just get into it. First, I'd like to talk about the title, Changing Attitudes to Learn More, to Do More, and to Be More. Obviously, we want our students to learn all the different aspects related to physical activity and fitness and physical education, whether it be skill-related or health-related. We obviously want them to do more. We want them to move those little bodies and see if they can get some of the benefits of physical activity. And then I really like this last part, to be more. I think we have a responsibility as educators to teach these students how to be good people. And that's what I mean by the be more. Be a good person, not only with their character, but also, how to assess themselves with fitness as well, and we'll get into that later. So that's pretty much what the title means, and that's an obvious one to look at that as it pertains to the students. But what I kind of want to focus on today is looking at this title again, but this time thinking about you as the teacher. I think it's so important that we change our attitudes as teachers first. So I think we need to learn more, we need to do more, and then be more as quality physical educators. So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about. I'm a teacher just like you. I'm currently teaching right now. I have a substitute back at my school, so I can do this webinar. So I get where you're coming from. I get where the students are coming from, and that it makes me excited to talk to you all about this. I've coached multiple sports. I've served on dozens of committees, and I've seen a lot in regards to educational strategies. And after about 25 years of teaching, I really do believe there's only one thing that can have the most impact on positive change, and that's attitude, our attitude. So let's take a look at attitude. We're going to think about it, take a look at it, and how we interact with our students. We always talk about, or, you know, when I go around to different schools around the country, we always hear the same thread. How can we change the students' attitudes? The students won't do this. They won't do that. How do we get them to do this or get them to do that and change their attitudes about physical activity? I really, really believe from my core that it has to start with us. I think it's our attitude that we need to look at first. And before we can even begin to have these little light bulbs go off with our students, we need to see where we stand, what our attitude is about fitness, about attitude, about motivation, about management, all these things that we're going to talk about in a minute. Let me give you a little history of why I came up with this. About 10 years into teaching, I realized, you know, I was a pretty good teacher, but I found myself teaching the same stuff over and over, semester after semester, year after year. And I was pretty stale after my 10-year mark. And at first I thought, well, it was just the students that are changing. They're coming to us less motivated and not as eager to learn or move. And then one day it just hit me. I don't think it's them. I think it's me. And that's a tough thing to look at yourself in the mirror and admit to that, you know what, I think it's me. I think I need to change my attitude towards teaching. I need to continue to learn new things. I need to stay current and fresh. And that's where I came to this whole thing. We all have current mindsets of how we are as teachers, or we have a set mindset of how you perceive your students. And today I want to help us to make a mind shift. Today is a day right now, and thank you for chiming into this webinar, but today's a great day to get recharged, especially after the new year. So here's a little definition on attitude. Let you read that for a sec. The second part here I really like. Attitude is measurable and changeable. I like the word changeable because it doesn't matter what attitude we currently have in regards to our job and our students and our classes and our administration and whatever you want to think about. But it is changeable. We can decide right now, right this second, to change our behavior and to change the way we view things. And same with the students. They can change. It's really easy to label the kiddos and say, oh, little Johnny Rotten is always Johnny Rotten, but you know what? I really believe that you can change Johnny Rotten into Johnny Good, Johnny Be Good. And by the way, that's my son's name, so I hope he's a good kid. So, is this you? Or maybe this guy? Or hopefully, I just love this picture. Every time I see this picture, it just warms my heart. And I really believe that there's so many good teachers, and just the fact that you signed up for this webinar, I know that this one's you. And I really want us to not only have a positive experience with the kids, but I want you as the teacher to have just a wonderful experience in your profession, in your career, because what a great job choice you chose. After 24 years, I really do love my job more now than I ever have, and I think a lot has to do with attitude. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I love this quote because on any given day, I mean, you may think, well, this girl, she's always up, up, up. She's one of those positive people. every single day she wakes up that way. I can tell you firsthand, no, I'm not. There are days when I am just not feeling it, and you got to really kick yourself in the pants and get going some days. But, man, once you get in front of those kids and get moving, it really is such a cool job, and the things that you're impacting and the people that you're impacting are tremendous. One of the best things that I believe I learned in college, and by the way, I studied under Dr. Pangrazi, is if you ignore a misbehavior, you approve of it. And I really believe that, and I'm going to talk about this more later when we talk about management, but I do believe that my attitude can change behaviors of students, and once they learn how to behave, their attitude changes towards how they look at fitness and physical activity and your class and you. So all of this is really a two-way street, but it really starts with you. I also believe that there's two kinds of people in the world. I believe there's owners and victims, and people who take ownership, or people who are the perpetual, there's people who take ownership, and then there's also people who are the perpetual victim. For example, lots of issues in PE that I can think of that I hear people talk about are lack of space. I don't have a gym, or I don't have this, or I'm in the cafeteria, or I'll do a workshop and do an activity using a piece of equipment, and the first thing out of it, I don't have that equipment, or my administration doesn't support me. What do you do about that? Or students today just aren't the same. And to me, that's a victim. That's just that's all I hear, and it's excuses. And I think we need to stop that and stop becoming a victim about every little thing that doesn't go perfectly your way, because in life, when does things ever go perfectly in one given day? It just doesn't. And so I'd like us to make the shift to let's take ownership of some of these things, like lack of space. Okay, yeah, there's been times where I've had to teach in practically little tiny storage rooms or in a dance room sharing with about 30 other people. We have those issues, but if we constantly make excuses for these kinds of things, ultimately it's the student's experience that suffers. It's your profession, but it's their experience, and if they don't have a good experience in physical education with fitness or with skill activity, or they're not going to continue it after high school. They just aren't. So we need to stop being a victim. We need to take ownership of our space, of our equipment, of our administration, of any obstacle that comes your way. Take charge of it, and let's make this a great experience for these kids. Because ultimately, your attitude is mirrored by your students. They are a reflection of you. When I'm flat, they're flat. Like I said before, there's days when I just wake up, I got a lot going on in my personal life or this or that, and I can tell when I'm flat because I look at my kids, my students, and they're flat. And I've even experimented with this sometimes. If I just smile, even when I don't necessarily feel like it, they all start smiling back. Or if I have a little bounce in my step, they have a bounce in their step. And the kind of music that I choose to play can be up or down. I mean, they really do mimic just about everything you do, and especially your attitude. Even this webinar, I'm sure right when I started talking, you're evaluating me instantly. Is she going to be boring? What's this going to be about? And, if I started out really flat, I could probably see a lot of you start turning off your computers and going to do something else. But I'm trying to keep you with me, and that's what we do as teachers with our students. Just stay with me. It's going to be fun, I promise. Let's talk about this. This is a stage, obviously, and you know what? I do believe that we're performers, and the moment you walk into your classroom, you are on stage. And like I said, sometimes we don't feel like being on stage, but we have to. We have to sell what we're trying to sell, and what we're selling is physical activity. and what an important thing to sell. I mean, this is the very thing that's going to keep kids active throughout their lifetime, allow them to become lifelong fitness enthusiasts and learners, and that's ultimately what we want. So the student should never know what kind of day you're having, or even worse, and what kind of night you had the night before. You should dress professional, you should be professional, you should be on. The minute you walk out of your office and you walk into that gym, you are on stage. A lot of times I feel like I'm on tour. I feel like Katy Perry. Like, here we go. I know she's sung those songs 7 billion times, and you've taught that beanbag activity 7,000 times, but you need to sell it as if it's the first time, because you know what? Those kiddos, to them, that's their first time, and they shouldn't feel how tired you are, okay? All right, Gopher, look, I did it. You should be proud of me. I switched the slide. Effective behavior management is really about changing your mindset. It's you have a way. Is your cup half full? Is it half empty? Are you waiting for the students to break the rules, or are you hoping that they can follow them? I mean, we need to champion these kids. We need to cheer them on. We need to want them to get it. I once in a while I see a PE teacher that kind of wants to break them. They almost want them to fail so they can bark at them or yell at them. And you know, I just really don't believe we're going to get anywhere with that way of thinking. We should be wanting them to succeed, wait for them to succeed, and instead of waiting for them to fail. So think about that. Which one are you? You know, when you see your students, what are you waiting for? You know, hopefully you're not waiting for them to fail. Your reaction determines whether a behavior will happen again or not. To change a child's behavior, we have to change our behavior. So, you know, look at this gal in the picture here. She's dressed professionally. She's modeling. She's smiling. I mean, smiles go a long way, and you'd be surprised at how little teachers smile when they get in front of those students. And I get it. You know, sometimes we're just thinking about what we're doing. We're thinking about what we're going to teach next. We got this. We got that. There's a fire drill that's about to happen. I mean, there's a lot going on with us, but we as educators, we need to find out what the reason is for all the behaviors that we see. Make it your job to find out what that reason is. For example, if a student is lazy, well, why are they lazy? You know, it's really easy to label a kid, Tabor, he's just lazy all the time he comes into class. Sorry, Tabor, I used you. But a lot of times I think that they're lazy because they're unsure. They've maybe never had a lot of success in physical education, and they just hold back, or it's too difficult for them. And so we perceive it as being lazy, but they may think that this is really hard. I've never done this before. Not everybody responds to physical activity the same. Or you have your class clown. You know, maybe that person just needs attention because they're not getting it at home, or they're insecure about how they look. They may be a little overweight. Or if you have a student who, you know, is just angry and mad all the time, you have no idea what's going on in their home life. You know, I think if all teachers could really take a look to see where these kiddos are coming from, how they're being raised, their household environment, I think we would have a much better perspective on, or just a little bit more compassion from where they're coming from. A lot of these kids aren't eating 3 meals a day and have a nice warm house to go home to, and 2 parents, or even 1 parent for that matter. But it's your reaction to all of that that determines whether or not they're going to like what they're doing, or have a positive experience in physical activity, or have a good attitude towards it. So that's that. Now, we as teachers, there's so many strategies that we get thrown at us as far as how to teach, and management, and all of that. So I kind of lumped it for myself. This was just for me to make it easy to remember and easy to kind of understand in my own head. The 4 M's that I like are management, motivation, movement, and we want to get them to maintain. So management's a huge one. I don't think you can get them, you can motivate them or get them to move or even to get them to maintain what they've learned if you can't manage. That has to be the number one thing here. So let's get into management for a second here. And I'm going to keep this really short and real simple. Keep expectations and consequences simple. Quietly and calmly address misbehavior. Be consistent and fair. I think that last one, you really got to be fair. If you're going to do it to one kid, you better do it to all kids. Be consistent. And management, you know what, you start out strong at the beginning of the semester or the beginning of the school year, and then the more you do it, of course, you can ease up as they learn it. But that's something, management is something that you really have to do all the time. The best teachers are constantly doing management. I don't care what level that you teach. I'm high school, and I know management, you know, is so important in elementary. I think it's just as important in middle, and I think it's just as important in high school. I even taught at ASU for about 8 years, and I did a lot of my management with those college kiddos. If you're trying to change behaviors and get everybody on the same page and have progress, you have to manage. My expectations and consequences are really simple. It's just stop, look, and listen, respect the rights of others, and hustle, and say, I'll give it a try. I learned this in Dr. Bob's class in elementary methods at ASU. When I did my student teaching, I learned this in elementary school, and you know what? I do the same thing in the high school. It's all the same. I want them to stop, look at me, and listen to what's coming up. I'm big on respect. You're going to hear me talk about that later, and then I always want them to hustle. I like this. I saw this somewhere. I can't even remember where I got this. Oh, I know, through one of my education classes at my school. This tippet. We teach the behavior. We want to imprint the behavior by modeling, practice the behavior with them, and most importantly, we want to praise it when we see it. There's no way you're going to see change if you don't praise it so they know what they were doing right. I thought this was pretty cool. I saw this at a faculty meeting. This is just, it's one of those things that are so obvious, and you're like, you're right, how come we do that? How come we don't teach behavior? And we just go right to that punishment part, or that punishment piece. You need to teach behavior. These kids coming in don't know how to do it. If they did, they wouldn't challenge you. So kind of keep this in mind next time that you're working on management and teaching them how you want, you know, your class to run, to teach them it. Take the time, and if they're not going to learn it the first time or the second time, and for some kiddos, our special little ones, we have to continue to teach it all year. So I want it to be as automatic as those other things. I hope you're laughing here. That's the one thing about webinars, I get no feedback from y'all. So this one makes me laugh every time. Don't let the disruptive students run the class. You know, whose class is it, theirs or yours? And don't be afraid to manage. I know it takes a lot of courage. When I was a young teacher, God, I was scared to death to call out a student. I mean, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that, but it's scary, and it takes time. It takes patience and repetition, lots and lots of repetition. So how do we motivate our students? I believe it's through passion, positive reinforcement, and challenge while encouraging. And I really believe you got to set high expectations. If you set the bar high, they're going to meet you there. They want to please you, especially if they trust you and like you, and they see that you care about them. They're going to get there. I see it day after day, semester after semester, year after year. All right, so let's move on to motivation. We talked a little bit about management, those 4 M's, remember? Management, motivation, here we are. You know, how do you motivate? Hopefully you're not the guy on the left there. You're more the guy on the right. Why do we need to motivate? Because we want to get them to move. The more they move, the more energy they have. The more energy they have, the more success they'll have in class. The more success they have in class, the more likelihood that they're going to be a lifelong fitness learner. And that's ultimately what we want. We want them to love what they're doing now so that they'll continue to do it as adults. It's a simple concept, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we follow through and make that happen. But we want them to move because they want to move, not because we're barking at them. If you bark at them, yeah, sure, they'll move, but it's very short-lived. As soon as they graduate, they're going to say, forget this. I don't need to do it because I already got my PE credit, and I don't need to do it for points, and that crazy lady's not around, so I'm not going to do it anymore. I want them to want to move because they want to move, not because I told them. And this is where motivation comes in. Delivery is everything. So how do we do that? Here's a couple little tips for you. We want to connect and build relationships, get to know your students. You know, you're going to know who your top students are, your athletes. You know, they're intrinsically motivated already on their own. That shouldn't ever be our big focus. Whether you're there or not, they're going to love physical activity. Connect with the ones who are your most challenging students, and then connect with the middle of the road too. I think they kind of get lost in the shuffle as well. Learn names through that. Get to know them. If they're in the band, say, hey, I saw you in the band. That was really cool at halftime. If they just had a badminton match, say, I didn't know you played badminton. I mean, get to know them. Set high expectations. Use music effectively. You know, pick music that they like. Don't always pick what you like. They don't care what you listened to in 1970. Get over it. And then challenge while encouraging. You want to push them, but you want to continually to encourage them as you're pushing them. Use positive yet powerful statements. Be descriptive. I like to call it descriptive noticing. Don't just say great job, great job, great job all the time. Tell them why. Man, I really like how you guys just hustled from this end of the gym to this end of the gym. You picked up your equipment and got going. Before I even told you to get started, you got started. Great job with that. And smile. I can't say that enough. Enjoy what you're doing. The more the students see that you enjoy your job, they're going to buy into it. And actually, you know what, you're going to enjoy it more too because you're having a good time. And your relationship with your students is going to be so much better. So you and only you are, I'm going to shift gears here, you're responsible for creating a safe and non-threatening environment. I tell my students all the time, be nice. I absolutely do not tolerate this kind of a thing where there's cliques and a group of kids are being mean to another group of kids or a certain individual. I mean, you could really crush a kid's spirit in your class. If you see it and you ignore it, you condone it. And we have got to stop that. We really need to create an environment in which everybody feels safe, everybody feels non-threatened and welcomed. And so I tell my students at the end of every single class, be nice. Great job in PE today. Don't forget, be nice. I'm like, I know, Coach, be nice. But the environment in my classroom, I think, is a good one. And that's something that we need to always look at. First and foremost, you are an educator. We teach physical education, I get that, but we are not just a profession of games. When an opportunity arises to teach a life lesson, you need to take it. For example, we just lost one of our faculty members over the weekend, and that was a really tough thing yesterday that we had to deal with our students. He was a well-liked teacher on our campus. Everybody knew him. And, you know, I had to go in and talk about a tough issue with the kiddos. And instead of making it real heavy and sad, I just used exercise. It just talked about a nice segue into exercise and how you can use that as a release for stress, for sadness, if you're feeling pressure, if you're angry. Exercise is just a super outlet. So that was a lesson of life because that's what something that came up. when you see an opportunity for a life lesson with your students, take it, and don't say, oh, I'll get it the next time. Then it's not going to happen again, that same opportunity. Take the time, stop the game, stop the fitness lesson, whatever you're doing. Sometimes it is just more important to make good people. And that leads me to this one. We as teachers wear lots of different hats. We're not only a teacher, but we're a nurse, we're a counselor, we're a coach, we're their parents, we're their mentor, we're a personal trainer, we're a nutritionist, we're a security guard. I mean, and I know you're all probably nodding right now, even though I can't see you, that, boy, it is a tough job. I'm not saying being a PE teacher is easy. You are expected to do all of those things. The students expect you to be all of those things. I can't believe some of the things that the kids tell me sometimes, as if I'm a certified medical nurse or doctor. Sometimes I'm like, I have no idea, you need to go to the nurse. But they confide in you. They trust you. They look at you as all of those things. So, it's a huge responsibility, but what a cool thing to be able to mold these kids. It's not going to happen with the parents. It's going to happen with you. I really think once you get to know these kids, every kid has a story, and if you just get to know them, they're going to tell you your story, and then you're going to get to understand where they come from, and then that's when you really can make change happen with their attitudes towards fitness or physical activity. Let's get into movement now, my favorite. All right. Movement tips, real simple. I think it's essential to provide and create a wide variety of activities. Move with them. Don't just, sit at the stereo cart or your favorite spot in the gym. Move with them. Or outside. Use a wide variety of equipment. Create a don't give up attitude and maximize your space. Don't just, always do the same type of rotation. Use the whole space that you have and maximize it so you get them moving more. Your gymnasium or your outside space or your cafeteria or wherever you're teaching, that is a blank canvas for you. Make it come alive. Use lots of equipment. Be innovative and use cutting-edge lessons. Put some personality into it. That's how you're going to make this gym, turn into something great. Use color. I love color, and I love equipment, and I love all music and laughter. I mean, that's a good class. When you're a good teacher, anybody can come into your class at any day, any given time, and see your gymnasium come alive and see kids being active and laughing and having fun and having success. So think about that. Don't just roll out the cart of balls. I know none of you do that, but and don't be a victim right now. Let me go back to this last slide. Oh, sure, well, I wish I had all that equipment, and you should see what I have. I only have 4 bean bags. Well, you know what? That's being a victim. We're not going to do that. We're going to take ownership and find a way to fundraise, find a way to write a grant, find a way to get equipment. Beg, borrow, steal. Well, don't steal, but find a way to get it. My budget is just as small as everybody else's, and, I've had to be real creative on raising some money to get my equipment. I'd love to see teachers moving with their students, move with them, give high fives, smile, give them praise, encourage, all of those things that you see there on that slide. I love. Students aren't coming to you any different than they were before. This picture, I think, was taken in the early 1950s, and this picture on the bottom was taken just a few years ago. Same thing, same group of girls. That's why I said earlier, I think we're the ones who, are changing as we go through our profession here. Try to stay fresh, try to stay current. I like this picture too. Same thing. The exercises haven't even changed that much either. You see these fancy workouts that come out, P90X, Insanity. It's the same exercises they've been doing for hundreds of years. They just put it in a fancy package and try to sell it and make money, but it's the same stuff. And then we really want our kids to maintain what they're learning so they continue to do it after high school. Teach the importance and the benefits of exercise. I call it the why. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because of this. Don't forget that piece when you're teaching a lesson. Teach basic exercise physiology and anatomy so they understand about the human body and how it works. You can keep it as basic or as intricate as you want. I like to include student choice for physical activity, how to self-assess their fitness levels. You know, I use the uploaded, well, I'll get to that in a minute, but I use pedometers where they can check to see, you know, what their activity time was, what their MVPA was. I teach just simple basic nutrition and then allow for success in a skill and health-related fitness. I don't think one area is more important than the other. I think both are equally important. So I do use pedometers. I love them. The kids can self-assess themselves. They can see exactly of your 60 minutes a day, how much of that activity time did you get in my class? How much more do you need? We have great discussions on that. And then of that activity time, how much is moderate to vigorous? And so I've been using these for about 3 years, and I absolutely love them. I'm not telling you, I'm not selling you, I'm not a salesperson for Gopher. I'm just telling you as a teacher, this has really changed my students' attitude towards fitness. It's changed my attitude. We can actually prove and see and assess ourselves. It's just kind of a nice Fitbit, if you will, to see where we're at and keeping progress on what we've done. I love this statement here. This is hard for some teachers, though, especially for if you're a control freak like myself. This is one that's a hard pill to swallow. I think a really good teacher, if you teach them all these tools needed, that they don't need you anymore, and that's exactly what we want to do. And so think about it that way instead of always being in control. And I'm a good teacher because without me, they wouldn't know a dang thing. No, you got to change that way of thinking and actually make a 180 switch on that. They don't need you anymore because you've taught them all the tools. Okay, if you have a substitute, it shouldn't matter if a sub's there or not there. They're going to work hard because they want to work hard. They know what they need to do to get it done. Use student choice. Let them lead, let them create and discover. As the semester goes on, loosen up the reins a little bit. I'm going to sit back here and shut up for now. You've heard my voice enough. Read this. I really want you to stop what you're doing. If you're checking your emails while I was talking, stop and read this because I think it's one of the most powerful things I have ever read. So on that note, I can't say it any better than that. These kiddos look to us to make them better. And back to my topic, hopefully we changed your attitude a little bit, but we want to change these kiddos' attitudes to learn more, to do more, and to be more. And if we can do that, then hats off to you, job well done. And that's it for me, Tabor. So I think we're ready for some questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Maria. Great presentation, especially as we kind of start the new year here. And just a reminder to our audience, on the right-hand side of your screen in the lower right is where you can type any of the questions that you might have kind of had rolling around in your brain while Maria was talking here. So we're going to get to a couple to start with, and as things come to your mind, feel free to enter any questions over there. So Maria, one question, actually, it's kind of two of them that are somewhat related. You had talked about, how to call out students appropriately, and then also along those lines, how do you address cliques or when there's maybe a group of students that are, doing something that you don't like happening in your class? Is that different than the individual, and how do you deal with those situations?
Okay, well, let me get to the first part. How do you address what was it, a management issue?
How do you call out, how do you appropriately call out a student? Yeah.
That's not doing what they should be doing?
You're right.
Well, first and foremost, you never want to draw attention to that situation, because the minute you do that, everybody's looking at you, and that's never, ever going to go well, because they got to save face in front of their peers. So what I always do is I see it, and I immediately, get the kids going on an activity, start the music or whatever you're doing, get them going, and then I'll go over there quietly and I'll whisper to them whatever I want them to do. Maybe I want them to go to timeout, or maybe I'll just say, hey, we don't do that. I don't look at them. I get behind them. I say it quickly. I say it calmly. I keep my emotion out of it. And, a lot of times that just does it, and I said, okay, go ahead and get back in there. If it was something minor, if it was big, go ahead and get in timeout. And no one even notices that that's going on, because they were busy doing their activity. I really make sure that I don't single a kid out in front of other kids. In my experience, not once has that ever gone well. The other part, how do I avoid cliques, was that?
Yeah, or how do you address that, when you see it happening in your class? Sometimes it's one of those things that's kind of, subtle, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint, but you know what's going on, and there's a group of students that are involved in it.
Well, again, I would not address it. I wouldn't stop the class and say, so-and-so, stop doing that or knock that off. I never would I do that. I avoid a lot of that before. I talk my first 2-3 days of a new class, a new semester, a new school year, I talk about cliques and why do we make fun of people. And the answer is because we're insecure ourselves. And I tell my students that is one thing I absolutely will not tolerate. We are a family. We work together. We talk about prejudice, how I won't tolerate it. And so I think you can nip a lot of that in the bud at the very beginning by setting the tone for your class. Now, does that always work? No. There's a kid who loses his head, or some girls who just happen to be mean to another girl, or a group of guys who are making fun of another guy. So when I see it, I will, unless they're totally embarrassing the kid or threatening the kid and it's just blatant, I will kind of give them an eyeball, let them know I saw that. I will use proximity. I'll get by them. I'll mix up those group of people, say, hey, you guys aren't going to work together. Why don't you go over there? Why don't you go over there? Whatever. And then I absolutely every single time will call those kids after class and talk to them about, did you ever think you might be hurting that kid's feelings, or why are you doing this? And just have a discussion, and that almost every single time that works. I won't involve the kid really that's being made fun of. I don't want to bring it to their attention. So I will deal with the source first.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Can you just back up one slide to that quote so folks had a chance to maybe jot down who that was?
Yeah.
And, Google that and print it out. There was a couple of folks that wanted to take a look at that. And while that's up there, we had a question about Energizer activities, and that's something I know you've done a lot with in some of your other presentations with classroom management and different things like that. So at the beginning of class, to kind of get kids motivated to learn and move, and kind of what are your thoughts on how to kick off the start of class, maybe with that sort of thing?
Yeah, you definitely, I have a whole slew. I do whole sessions on Energizer activities, and if anyone would like to email me, I can give you a handout. I have a whole bunch of quick little 3 to 5 minute, short, quick, fun activities to get them going. I like to start out kind of on a fun tone, a light tone, if you will, then get into some heavier fitness type stuff, work them, and then I like to end with something kind of light and fun as well. So do these folks have my email? I'm going to go, there it is, right there. So anybody that's interested in getting my handout on some of these Energizers, you're more than welcome to email me there, and I'll be happy to send it to you. That would be a lot easier than me trying to explain. Yeah. Because I've many.
Well, thanks, Maria. We've gotten through pretty much the questions that we had here, and I think, like I said, just a great presentation here as we kind of start the new year. And our winner, well, before I get to that, of a winner of our Topple Tubes, just to remind everybody to keep an eye out in your email for the certificate of participation that you can use for continuing ed credits, and then also an email on the topic for next month and who our presenter will be next month. But at this time, I do want to let you know who the winner is. It's Michael Nikolek of Azabet Valley Regional Technical High School in Marlborough, Massachusetts. So congratulations, Michael. And we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We hope that you'll join us again for another one of our webinars in the future. And thank you, Maria. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Tabor. Thanks, Gopher.